we can chat and converse and that kind of thing. But something in here is going to be important to everybody, and different things for different people. So be a good neighbor. We want to share. If you feel like you want to share something, share it with all of us because that's how we learn. By the way, we had an excellent session yesterday in our first Make It Happen Monday. We had a lot of really good information that was shared just because people were here talking about real estate, about business, so on and so forth. So we learn from each other. That's a very valuable thing. We all bring something different and something very important to the table. Okay. I took the um, initiative to call us the Titans. We're going to have a name, we're going to have a team, we're also going to have a theme song. Our theme song is the theme from Mahogany. And if you've never paid attention to the words of this song, it happened to come on my radio just before I got to the office this morning. And I've used this song before in classes as kind of a theme. Gives you something to think about, and if you really look at the words, I think it's something we all need to do, is to be introspective about, do we know where we're going, so on and so forth. Okay, so we're the Titans. The definition of a Titan: giant in size or power, one that stands out for greatness or achievement. I think that that will describe us very well in the months going ahead and the weeks as we go through this program and everybody becomes more adept at listing and more proficient in their profession as a real estate professional. Okay? Okay. I did a little bit of research yesterday, curious about how many listings there have been, how many sales there have been. There has to be a listing to have a sale through our MLS. Can anybody guess from January 1st through yesterday how many properties past title that went through our MLS?
10,000.
That's pretty close, but not quite. A little under that.
8,000?
Yes, 8,615. Okay. If you think about the number of listings that each of us had during that time,
How much, what was the time frame?
from January 1st, 2019 through yesterday, so about 9 months or so, okay? That, I was kind of surprised. That's a lot, and we still have a whole quarter for this year to go. So that says to me, there's a lot of business out there. I don't know how many members we have in our board right now. I'm gonna say somewhere between 4,000 and 4,500. If that's the case, then that's only about between 2 and 3 listings per person in our board. Judy?
Were those sold listings or just, or,
Yes, those
Sold.
past title,
okay.
yes.
Closed transactions.
Uh-huh. Total sold, the entire MLS was 8615. I got that information right out of the MLS, by the way, so it's there for all of us. So if we've got that many members, my guess is that not everybody got a listing during that time. Not everybody did some business during that time. So if we whittle those numbers down to
I'm
what,
sorry, how many members do we have?
I'm not sure, somewhere between 4,000 and 4,500 is my guess,
Okay.
okay? We had 5,000, when I moved here, there were about 5,000 people or a little more in the business. When things got really tough, we lost a lot of people, and now we've got people that are coming back in, getting licenses. So, John, do you have any idea how many members belong to the board?
I thought it was like 4,000.
Okay,
That's what I don't know, that
Yeah.
figure jumped in my head.
okay, so
Used
that's
to be
a
less.
good number to use. I think that we can capture a huge share of the listing market if we're proficient and want it bad enough. So that's what we're going to work on, is wanting it bad enough, and when you do, having the tools and the knowledge and everything at hand so you can go out and be a listing agent and find those listings and get those listings. If there are about 200, made some notes on this. I look at a lot of files and I see basically a lot of the same names over and over. Every once in a while there's a new name that pops up from another company that is doing some business. But I'm going to guess that out of that 4,000 members, we probably have, and this is just my guess, around 200, 250 people that are really doing most of the business. Don't you want part of what they've got? We deserve it. You certainly all deserve to have a lion's share of the listings. Okay, so that's what we're going to work on, because you deserve it, the company deserves it, and there's something special about listings. We talked about it yesterday for those that were here. Anybody remember? If you've got a listing,
Being in control,
being in control,
that's a big thing.
it's a big thing. Let's talk for a moment about why people maybe don't like to get listings. Anybody want to say, I prefer being a buyer's agent rather than a listing agent, and here's why? Anybody just want to say that?
My what I would take from that is sellers are harder to work with because they, first of all, they always want to price it high. It's hard to get them to be reasonable and see it the way you see it. And second of all, they want to drop you if it doesn't sell at what they want. You know, whereas, yeah. So
Okay.
that's
Okay, so
my
those
take.
are some things that we can work on so that you can actually control the mindset of your sellers through information and facts and figures and that kind of thing. We'll get there. Anybody else? Myths?
I think it's very hard for agents to live up to the expectations that they're telling the sellers, and I think that's maybe one of the reasons why people get freaked out about that world.
Okay.
Like what?
You talk a big story, but you can't deliver, and I think that's when you're on, the onus is on you when you're listing somebody's property.
I can't keep promises.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you know, if you look at our, you know, your 21 line UCMA, there's a whole bunch of stuff, there's a whole bunch of things we do as agents, we as agents, you know, pursue, fulfill our obligations under that.
Yes.
Under that, program that we're representing the department, right?
Yes. And that really boils down just to being prepared, to be confident in what you know and how you deliver. And that comes through practice and experience. And that's part of what we're going to do today too. If you've never delivered a listing presentation, even if you have to go home and deliver it to the goldfish in the bowl tonight, or this week when we get to that point, you need to say those words out loud, because if you don't say them out loud, they aren't your words, right? Do you have a goldfish? No?
The dog.
Yeah. Dogs listen well too. Okay, so far does this make sense to everybody?
Yes.
Great, okay. Okay, so in your book, we're going to start right out at the beginning, and we're going to go through why listings matter. Listing, the most lucrative and time-efficient asset to generate transactions and build a sustainable real estate business. Okay? Without a listing, if somebody didn't have a listing, none of us would be in business, right? So that is the product that we have to work with, a listing. Whether it's a piece of bare land, a mobile home, a high-rise, a two-bedroom house, a condo or whatever, we have to have a listing in order to sell it. Okay, to launch and sustain a career that lasts, the best agents always focus their business on working with sellers. With listings come inventory. With inventory comes market share. Once you get your listing presentation, your system, and you've got to have a listing system in place, and you're comfortable with it, that's the hardest thing that you'll have to do is your preparation for getting ready. After that, it's easy because you just kind of fill in the blanks for each property that you're listing, and it becomes easier every time that you do it. I think for a lot of people, they think that it's easier just to throw somebody in their car, go out and look at some properties and see what happens, where there is some preparation that goes into a listing. But I think that that preparation is fun. It's sort of a creative part. It's an investigative part. Whatever drives your type of personality, you can find it in a listing. If you like people and you like to be out there with those people, a listing's the best place. Okay? I just think listings are a lot easier than sales, and it's not that sales aren't important, because if you have a listing and nobody buys it, what good is it, right? So it's all important. But if you haven't been a listing agent or you don't like listings, it's time for a paradigm shift. Let's talk about a paradigm shift. What is that? Can anybody define a paradigm or what a paradigm shift would be? Stephanie?
I would say a moment that you're thinking about something shifts fundamentally, and you see things in a different way.
Kind of like stepping outside the box that you're used to. If you do things a certain way and they've worked for you and that's your comfort zone, that's your little paradigm. But if you have a paradigm shift and you step outside that box and you stretch and you learn something new and you do something new, that's going to broaden, that's going to make that box bigger. Okay? So that's what we're after, is a paradigm shift for everybody to step outside that box and stretch your own ability. Strengthen it, stretch it, and make it yours.
Marcia?
Mm-hmm.
If we go back to that first sentence, it
Mhm.
says the most lucrative, and then the next part of the sentence is sustainable. Obviously, as we know in this business, it can be very lucrative, and what we want to achieve is a sustainable business over
Mhm.
time. And that's
Mhm.
by either, obviously, referrals,
Yes.
generating other business by other means.
Yes.
And so that's our, that needs to be our focus, is to be sustainable, to be, and it's gonna be lucrative because you're sustainable.
Yes. And I,
But being, most, time efficient also, because if you're wasting your time, because buyers can be very time wasters. And
Yes.
I, you know, in the beginning of my career, you know, I'd spend days, months showing, buyers houses. And now, at this time in my career, I'm like, after, you know, I don't know, I fired people now. I'm like, you're wasting my time, I don't need you. So, I mean, you learn after a long time, that they're time wasters, so time efficiency is,
Mhm.
it matters.
it does matter. It's very important. That's part of what we're going to be working on throughout this class too.
And
Good
I think
words,
along
Joy.
with what Joy was saying about sustainability, when you're the listing agent, your advertising is out there.
Yeah.
Versus if you're working with a buyer, you're like, your card's on the
Yeah.
thing. But your sign is out there,
Yes.
the advertising, so more people are drawn to you, people that drive by the house, you get, you know.
The neighbors.
Yes.
Okay, good comments, everybody. To launch and sustain a career that lasts, the best agents always focus their business on working with sellers. With listings come inventory, and with inventory comes market share. Using a customer lifetime value calculator, consider the value of just one seller over their lifetime as your client. The average sales price, they've got $375,700 here. In our area, our prices are a little different. I think our median price is probably just under 300,000, somewhere between 285 to 300. Is that what you feel, the median price? What's the difference between a median and an average price?
One's in the middle and one's a some level.
Okay, if you have the average of something, you add up all of those figures, high and low, and that gives you an average price, okay? If you have a $7,000 mobile home and a $2,000 estate, a $2 million estate, and you average those two together, it's not gonna be realistic, is it? Okay, a median is where you take all of the sales and where they're meeting in the middle, the most of them, that's your median price, okay?
If you Google it, the Fresno area is about 285.
About 285?
Which I kind of think it might be higher, but.
That's what I thought, maybe
Yeah.
low, like right at 300.
Okay, so right in there someplace. I think 375 is way off for our market area here. Okay, the average commission, it says 3%. Is that our average anymore?
No.
Not really, is it?
More like a 2.5.
2.5.
all day long.
Yeah,
Somewhere in the
I
middle.
know there is some too.
Yeah, you started to see
Yeah.
that.
I've seen that one. I know.
okay. Cost of sales, brokerage fees, so on and so forth, 60% or 50%. I think that probably isn't very realistic either, but I don't know. Average client age is 54. What are you seeing in your practice? Stephanie, you're young. You have a lot of young friends.
People are always saying I'm young. When
Oh,
I
you are.
When I started with buyers, I primarily had other buyers who were young, first-time buyers, because it was people who I knew.
Uh-huh.
And now going into working mostly with sellers as a whole, they're older, so it is closer to 55 and older. Which
Okay.
I enjoy.
But the average age group in our area is in the 30s.
For
32.
For buying. Oh.
Well, right. I don't know for buying, but that is our demographics.
Okay,
32.
okay.
So.
So is that millennial age group, right?
Mhm.
And millennials are, remember a couple of years ago, we kind of laughed at millennials and we had that adulting 101 thing from Century 21, which was just absolutely horrible.
Thank you, I agree.
It was. Millennials have grown older, grown up. They're buying their first homes. They're buying investment properties. They're beginning to have children. They're having children at a later age, so on and so forth. It's the prime time for millennials. And I've done a little bit of research on that too, because I used to be a huge critic of millennial children. They're some of the most loyal people. So if you can find a millennial to work with, that's probably really a good thing. Okay. Average tenure in the seller's home, it says 10 years.
I don't agree.
What do you think it is?
More like 5 to 7.
Yeah.
Does everybody think that? Okay.
Which is so odd. It's like you barely unpacked.
Sometimes it's only 3.
Right.
I think it has a lot to do right now with what we're looking at with the economy and the crash. And so when we're looking at when people are buying and moving in respect to 2008 and 2011 when they're buying. So people who bought their houses in 2011 are eager to sell because they're making a lot of return on their investment and they can move up easily. So I think
Mhm.
that's why things are different for now.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Kind of a snapshot in time.
Okay. Kathy?
And some, most of the millennials I've worked with, not that many, but the house that I'm getting for them, they want that as their forever home. And they're in their early 30s, and this is our forever home. Whether it is or not, but that's their mindset, of the ones that I've worked with.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's how they
They'll
think.
go in and they'll remodel
Once
it.
they start making more money, I think
That's right, they changed their mind.
But you know what, on that, I'm
My
also,
cars are
I'm noticing them saying, this is, they're also talking, this is their starter home. I think they are, you know, doing their homework. and
Yeah.
They're seeing that,
Yeah.
yeah. A
Okay.
forever home is kind of a far stretch.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
fantastic.
So it says the probability a client would use you again, only 25%.
I don't agree at all.
Well, if you've been through Buffini, it better be close to 100%, huh? So I think a lot of people aren't going through Buffini and are missing the boat.
So 1 out of
Um,
4 will use you again? Yeah, you're not using the feeding then.
Yeah, if it's that low.
Yeah.
Yeah, or else if you've been through Buffini and you're not using the program, it may be down low, but I think we do much better than that. As an office, I think we do a lot of referral and repeat business. This company was built on that because we do build strong relationships, so that's very important. Okay. Referrals over the course of your relationship, it says 10. How do you feel about that number?
On each client?
Over 10 years, like 1 a year,
So one referral a year, it seems?
Maybe?
from a client, from one client.
Says over the course of your relationship, if your relationship isn't going to be really long-term, really you want your relationships to be multi-generational. You want to move from the parents to the children and then the grandchildren someday if you're in the business that long. And that happens. We've got business like that here.
You know, my clients, I do pop by. I have gotten, you know, business back from them, you know, buying after 3 years, buying another house, things like that. I did get 2 referrals. But I think, unless Buffini says this, you have to ask them. And I think that's where I drop the ball. I don't actually ask them, you know, to give me a referral.
Okay.
You know, it's not consistent enough. If I
Okay.
ask, I'll ask once. I might not ask them for another week.
Okay. As we go through here, I think we're going to add some Buffini-isms because they work.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so the lifetime value of a well cared for client is $131,061, according to our example. That's pretty good for a listing client if we keep those relationships going, right? Okay.
I think that there's probably 2 examples of somebody has had that success of relationships on referrals, and one was Liz, and the other's Lydia.
Mm-hmm.
They both really worked at their past clients.
And
Mhm.
Irma.
They did.
Irma too. Mm-hmm.
Irma,
Yeah.
yes. I think Gary Lundin is a shining example of somebody who used the Buffini system and made it work and
Well,
did
I guess
incredible
I chose
business.
those 2 because they've been in the business a long time.
Yes.
To really show longevity,
Yes.
and really over a long period of time.
Yes.
So,
And Joey, most of the people here aren't familiar with any of those people we've talked about because they've moved to other states or
Yeah.
other places. The bottom line of what you're saying is that if you have systems
Yes.
and you keep in touch and develop relationships, it will bring you incredible business. And that's the honest to God truth of all of that.
Right.
Okay. Okay, the multiplying effect of a listing. The interesting advantage of a seller listing is that while buyers won't let you hang around a yard sign, won't let you hang a yard sign around their necks, nor take out ads for your business using their photo, sellers want you to both put a sign in their front yard and advertise their listing everywhere. That is a big difference, and that's probably something we don't think about. Top agents will tell you that their goal is to utilize each and every listing to attract at least 2 more separate pieces of business in the form of additional buyers and sellers by capitalizing on the opportunities of a listing. Each seller client could be worth 3 times the lifetime value of a well cared for client, or almost $400,000. Okay, Buffini says, if you're at a listing presentation and you're going to list a house, you should begin asking for referrals right away. And one of the things to say to that person is, I want to devote a lot of my time to you. I don't want to be out looking for other business because that's my job too. If you've got referrals that you can give me, I'd like to by the time we get through escrow on your house. And if you ask for something, people will usually give it to you, okay? But it goes right back to what Lori was saying. If you don't ask, they aren't going to give it. Okay, why listings matter. Most successful agents go through an evolution in building their business. They begin with buyers but quickly encounter scalability issues. There are only so many houses they can show in a day. Then they find that not only do listings take less time, the tasks associated with a sale, photography, placing a sign, so on and so forth, can be delegated more easily. Isn't that true? Because we've got a sign man, we have an in-house photographer, we've got Elba that does a lot of things for you, Debbie that does a lot of things for you. I try to help too. So you've got people at your disposal to help you get your job done more efficiently, more quickly, and better. Eventually, every successful agent has this epiphany. I must shift my focus from any client who will do to I must put listings first. And it's understandable as a new agent. We just want to get some business. We want our first commission. We want to get started with this whole process. But it does evolve because as you acquire experience and knowledge and you're working smarter, you find out that listings really are the best way to go. Listing first. In Century 21 Real Estate, we say listings first. It's not that we don't want to work with buyers. We absolutely love helping people find the homes of their dreams, and we are the best in the industry at it. Listings first is the mindset successful agents adopt to ensure that servicing their buyers doesn't distract them from finding and winning seller clients to fully leverage both sides of their business. Question, day to day, what do you do to keep listings first focus? And write it down. Write down in your book what you do. Does anybody want to say what they do? Stephanie, what do you do?
I just walked in, so were you saying to keep listings first?
Yes, what do you do to keep your focus on listings each day?
So I really wanted to focus on listings this year, and I didn't know exactly how I was going to do that, but what I decided was to just every single day to have some sort of project where I'm doing something, reaching out to listing agents, or listings, potential listings. So I tried to find houses with high equity, and I wrote them, postcards. I was going through expired listings, not in the way that people traditionally look through expired listings, but I was trying to figure out myself, why did this house not sell? And without insulting the agent who listed it, I would reach out and kind of write a little note to the seller about why I thought that perhaps their house didn't sell, and kind of I had a new marketing idea and can I meet with them? Which I'm trying all these different things and seeing what sticks. I tried to reach out to people who were getting divorced, which you could find through the county records, which I thought would be really fun and interesting.
Oh, that's a nice niche market.
Yeah, so anyway.
It'll never go away.
I wish that, yeah. I wish that I could say that every one of those things were successful. They weren't. But the point of it is that I keep focused on constantly trying to think about it and doing something rather than not doing anything. And when I say that they didn't work, who knows, maybe eventually they will. I had a few people call me from my divorce notes because I didn't reach out to them knowing that they were getting divorced. I just reached out to them saying, hey, I found your house on the tax records and looks like, you know, it's a good time to sell for your area. So
Okay.
anyway, I got some contacts, maybe some future clients from that, and I
That's
think
good.
we always do that, and always think about it, it'll be good.
Okay. We have a lot of brand new agents with us, and we have some people that have been in the business for a while that maybe need to revamp their business a bit. So thinking about a very fundamental process, I think one of the most important first things that you can do is to sit down and create a sphere of influence, because we all have one. Okay? Start with that. That's the most basic thing you can do. And I know for the new agents in class, you've heard that over and over, but fundamentally it is one of the most important things you can do, is to organize that sphere of influence and begin reaching out to them. And we'll be talking more about that. Anybody else want to say how you keep listings in your forefront each day? Joy, you get a lot of listings. What do you do?
Well, I have been, I get a lot of mine from referrals.
Yes?
That's.
And that's just building relationships and keeping in touch.
Mhm.
Okay. And you
most-
had kind of a new, unique system that you've been using. Your cakes.
Oh, I'm like, I have? What have I been doing?
Tell me more, Marcia.
I know, tell me more.
Well, that's true, right?
It is true. And actually, someone, I had lunch with a girlfriend the other day, and she said, Joy, you know, your marketing has been fabulous. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And she's like, it's so genius. And I'm like, okay. She's like, your cakes. And I'm like, oh, right. So, anyhow, I bake cakes for my clients. And, but specifically, I have these little mini cakes. They're actually a 4-inch cake. That is my pop by. And so I will pop by with a delicious little cake, homemade by me. And then if I receive a referral or someone sells a house or buys a house, I make a full-size delectable cake for them. And so, but recently, someone at church who is actually a chef, and he's a, what do you call it? He's a teacher at the San Joaquin College, the one on Herndon. He saw my cakes on Facebook, and he came up to me in church, and he's like, hey, what's this about your cakes? And I'm like, you bake. You teach me everything about cakes. And he's like, I need you to sell a house for me. So I had the opportunity to give him a cake. And so it was pretty cool.
Oh, that's good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that's something different and unique to Joy. Are we all going to go out and bake a cake?
No.
Probably not. Last
No,
thing
but
on our
I
mind,
mean,
but it works
with your
beautifully.
Unique idea.
Yes. Okay. Let's turn the page, everybody. Why listings matter. The 4 attitudes of a listing agent. A listings first focus leads to a shift in mindset. Listing agents focus on developing a set of traits commonly shared by many who have built listings-based businesses. We refer to these as the 4 attitudes. Choose to adopt them at a high level, and you too can put listings first. So abundance is everywhere. What does that mean? It kind of goes back to these numbers we talked about at the very beginning this morning. 8,610 closings so far on our board. That's abundance. Do we deserve a share of that? Do each of you deserve a share of that? You absolutely do. Are we going to get it? We are. Abundance is there. We're going to go for it, right? Isn't that all what we want to think? Okay. Action above all. What does that mean? Means you have to be proactive, doesn't it? Nobody's going to knock on your door, usually, and say, would you list my house? You've got to go out and find those people that want to list. You have to take some action. Confidence born from preparation. Aren't we building a basis today for that? Starting with this class, we're going to develop a lot of confidence because we're gonna be prepared. You have to have a system in place, whatever your system is. For some people, it's Buffini. For others, it might be a Mike Ferry strategy, or maybe you're just learning from people in the office and you admire somebody and you're going to do what they're doing and you want to get a little information from them. We all have to build a system. And if you don't do anything, that's a system too. But one that's not going to bring you success, right? We don't want that system. Okay. Solutions, not problems. You have, what would that mean? What would be a solution, not a problem?
One example that the teacher had given was, telling the seller, I have your back, right from the get-go, saying, I'm gonna stand behind you every step of the way, and if for some reason we run into problems, and we all know we're gonna have problems, but not for warning him, but just saying, I've got your back, through all of this paperwork, through every step of the way, the home inspection, signing the paperwork, through the buyer's loan. I'm gonna be with you through the closing, and not, I'm not going to be an agent that won't answer my phone. I'm not going to be, I'm not going to be an invisible agent. I've got your back.
Okay, all right. Any other thoughts, Kathy?
And to go along with what Joy was saying, it's amazing how many people, whether it's sellers or buyers, think that they have to do the majority of the work, and they feel confused. It's like, what do I do? And I say, you know what, that's my job. Let me be in the driver's seat. I will guide you. You take I'll take my lead. I'll lead the way, whatever. You just, reinforcing them that I'm the one, handling it, and I'll
Okay, and
see them through.
if we're an agent and we know we're going to encounter problems, you never know what kind of a situation is going to come up. Some of them can be very unique and very surprising. But one way to be prepared with solutions is to increase your knowledge base, right? Increase your knowledge base, know more about everything that you can, and that's a process. We can't just go to bed one night and wake up the next morning with every bit of real estate knowledge we're ever going to need, because we put a book under our pillow. That doesn't work that way, but day by day, coming to something like this, learning what others are doing, sharing knowledge and information, attending classes, reading about something. Let's just take some examples. If you know you're going to be working with an investor client, what's the one thing you need to talk to that investor client about?
Investment property.
Yes,
Whether or not he's gonna do a 1031.
exactly. You have a duty as an agent with any investment client that you're working with. They say, have you discussed 1031s with your tax person or your attorney? We have a duty to do that. We can be held accountable if we don't do that and they find out later that they could have benefited from that 1031 and we didn't tell them.
And on that, I have a question. Would you tell that same client, say you've worked with them for years and you've already done 1031s with them, do you still discuss it at every?
Yes, because
every
they're the
time?
consumer and they have less knowledge, less experience than you. And you don't have to go into a prolonged conversation. By the way, have you talked to your CPA about this yet? Is he recommending a 1031? You can ask it that way to get direction for yourself, okay? Okay, that's just one example. There's lots of examples about how you acquire information. Who can tell me what the current law is for smoke detectors? Anybody?
One in each bedroom and one
In
in
the
the hallway.
hallway.
The last house I just sold, my seller argued with me about it.
Me too.
Depends on the grade.
Do you mean?
Just
I
well, it does a lot.
Some houses, they have CO detector, one per floor, right? It's a really long house, they'll make you put it on both sides of the house.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I got that too. There's two dwelling
Well,
areas.
Here in California, what the law is right now is that you've got to have one in each bedroom or sleeping area. You've got to have one in the hallway. You've got to have one on each floor,
Okay, yeah.
okay? So if you want a little, diagram, there's a real cute one if you go to the California Fire Marshal page, and it'll show you where you have to put those. And you could put that right in your listing presentation or whatever. So you can see there's a lot of ways that you can gather knowledge.
What about the kitchen? No, doesn't have to.
Oh, I
No.
wouldn't put one in the kitchen, it's gonna go off every 10 minutes. Yeah,
Well,
not even
fires can
close to
start
the
right there.
kitchen.
Although, on the CO,
Uh-huh.
what's the requirement for that?
It depends, well, there is a requirement that there is one in the house
Yeah, right.
now. If there is,
Two sleeping areas.
By the
we have
sleeping
them
quarters,
too.
yeah.
Marshal, I had a fire marshal tell me this once about the carbon monoxide. That gas is heavier than smoke. Always put them on the low plug in the house.
okay,
Depends on the CO detector.
yeah,
Yeah.
you've got to read the instructions on each package, because they do vary. That's true, what you said is true, but read the manufacturer's instructions for that, because now they're combining, carbon monoxide and, smoke detectors. I've got one in my house.
Yeah.
Do all appraisers look for the smoke detectors in all the rooms?
Yep.
They're going to look to see that it meets the
And that they
current
work
code.
More common.
Mhm.
I just got an appraisal done and the rooms didn't have any detectors in them, but there was one in the hallway and, I think it needed a CO detector and the listing agent put one smack in the middle of the floor.
Oh.
Yeah, I've never seen that before. She put it right in the middle of the floor of the hallway and the appraiser was like, that's a trip hazard.
Was it an older house?
Yeah, older home, but I don't understand why they put it in the middle of the floor.
So is there a plug in the
Because she
floor?
wasn't
Those are the
knowledgeable.
battery powered ones you clip on.
What?
Okay,
I took a
Okay,
picture-
everybody.
I took a picture and sent it to the listing agent.
can't do that. Okay, let's come back to the center here, because we could go off all day on these kind of things, because there's so many and they do crop up, right? The point is increase your knowledge level, and that's one of the 4 attitudes of a good, successful listing agent. Internalize attitudes. Agents who have internalized these 4 attitudes can capture listings and conquer market share. And just as the men and women who built America at the turn of the century were known as titans of industry, you can be a titan of real estate, a titan of inventory. Agents with extraordinary vision to capture listings and conquer market share to achieve their real estate dreams. If I were to ask any of you right now, just based upon what we've talked about from the beginning, where would you like your market share to be?
Listings.
What percentage?
I would say, about 90%.
We're going off in different thoughts. My thought was, if there's 8,600 closings so
Oh.
far this year, where do you want your share of that to be? Anybody want to say?
As a company, I want 5%.
5%? Okay.
I want 100.
So you want to be a mogul,
Tycoon.
a tycoon,
Yeah.
a titan?
Moguls nice too.
Okay. What market share would you like to have? What are you aspiring to, Stephanie? Because I know you have some big
I
plans.
would like to have 100 listings per year. That would be my goal.
Okay.
I think you could easily do that also with technology and a transaction coordinator.
Okay.
I think you could do it.
I think she will do it. Yes. Okay. So I would think about those numbers. I think about the 8,600 closings so far this year. And I would think about what you want your share to be. We're coming up to the end of this year. And it's always nice to prepare at the end of the year for next year. Set your goals for next year And the best way to set good goals is to have some accomplishment for this year, because that spurs you on to make good goals, okay? Okay. Down at the bottom, we're going to rate ourselves. It says rate yourself using a scale of 1 to 5. 1 is not me at all, and 5, this is me every day. Write down in your book. This book is for you. It's to help you grow. So be honest with yourself. How do you feel about abundance is everywhere? Is that me? Or is that not me at all? If it's me, it's a number 1. If it's not me at all, it's a number 5.
No, it's off.
Or just the opposite, I'm sorry. Okay, confidence born of preparation. How prepared are you? Do you have a system in place? Do you work on acquiring knowledge all the time? Are you a 1 or a 5? Solutions, not problems. And I left one out, action above all. Okay, everybody get their numbers down? Now you know what you have to work on, right? Okay, listing powered goals. To be a Titan, you have to think and act like one, and that starts with goals. Evaluate your earning potential with listings and their multiple effect. What 3 goals could you potentially accomplish with that income? If you could really raise your income level, and it could bring something into your life that you need or want or have been aspiring to, what would it be? Write down 3 things in your spaces there. Is everybody writing? Did you get 3 things written down? You need those 3 things because we're going to use them on the rest of this page. Okay? Okay, how much do you need to fuel your life and accomplish your goals for the year? There's a little workspace there for you to write numbers in. And I don't know if you have these figures on the top of your head. I did some numbers just to write down last night. I'm going to use these numbers as an example. Estimated bills this year for the year. In my example, I've got $98,000 in estimated bills. Okay? If you consider house payment, insurance, so on and so forth. The one thing, when I was doing this example and writing it down, I didn't calculate taxes. Whatever you do, calculate your taxes into your expenses, okay? Otherwise, you won't be in business very long. Okay. Desired savings this year. What if you want to put $15,000 in the bank? What if you want to start building that 6-month reserve? Okay, and number 3 is going back up to your goals that we wrote before. Funds needed for goal number 1. Maybe you need $8,000 this year for that first goal. For the second goal, maybe you need $5,000. For the third goal, maybe you need $4,000. Maybe you need a lot more than that. Whatever your goal was, write it in. Because if you write it down, you're much more likely to be able to claim that as a victory later on. Subtotal financial goals for this year. So that's adding everything from 1 through 5. Add all of those up and see what you get. The total for my example came to $130,000. my additional real estate expenses this year. I used an example of 6,000, and my total business lines, 6 plus 7 is 136,000. And you might want to calculate some taxes in your example if you didn't calculate taxes. That has to be a part of what we need to do.
They happened to mention that there is a more extensive worksheet on the, business planning tool on Central 21 Online.
Yes. Yes. And for those that have been in my classes, I've given you all of these sheets, and you'll be getting them again toward the end of the year. But just roughly, just for the sake of example, go ahead and do these. And then we're going to flip the page. First it says goals that are not written down are just wishes. What happens when you write down a goal? It puts it in your mind. And your mind doesn't forget. Your mind sees that as something that you have to do and to accomplish, especially if you write it down. We had an agent that refused to do any of that, didn't want any part of it, didn't believe in that kind of stuff, and finally his arm was twisted long enough that he wrote something down, and it was higher than anything he had ever done before. And when he wrote it down, he accomplished it that first year. The next year he doubled it, and the year after that he added quite a bit more to it, and he did it. And part of it, and that's what made a believer for him, was that he wrote it down. You have to write down these things. This book is a good place. This is your book. It's your workbook. You can go back and refer to it, change it, do whatever. But you need to write these things down. Okay, next page over is a goal projector. The difference between just setting a goal and actually achieving it is real understanding of and commitment to the activities that are required to get there. So on that first line, you're going to put your business financial goal. How many thousands of dollars do you need there in number 1? The average sales price in your market. For those of you that have been in business for a while, do you know the average selling price that you're in the market that you work in?
The one we want?
Well,
Like what price range we want to work with? Is that
yes,
what
you
you're saying?
can do that. Have an aspiration.
Bless you.
So you're saying that in our sphere of business, what our average sales price has been?
Yes.
Okay.
If you added up all of your sales for the last year and divided by that number of sales, that's going to give you what your average selling point is.
Okay.
We don't have that right now.
Okay. So you can look through your records tonight and see where you are with that number. Might be surprising to you to see. And I think it's interesting. People, not always, so I don't want to say always, but people tend to work in a range where they're comfortable. The same agent that I was talking about a moment ago that finally wrote down his goals didn't like to work in properties that he couldn't afford to live in. That was a mindset that he had. And he usually sold at a range of about 200, 250 tops. Very seldom did he get up higher than that because for some reason he had a mental block. I don't think many people have a mental block like that. I don't know. But one good way to raise your income level is to raise the price point of the houses that you're selling. Okay? So
Is
the
that what you're
average.
saying he did? He worked the price range that he couldn't afford to live in? Is
No,
what you
that
were
he,
saying?
that he could afford.
Oh, that he
was
could.
very
Oh,
comfortable
I
in
see.
that price point where, okay,
I definitely had that problem when I started.
did you?
Yeah.
Okay, and you grew out of it?
I think the first time you have a listing that's higher, then you feel better. And then, you know, you have that big listing that's much, much, much higher, and then you feel
Mhm.
more comfortable after that. Just-
Okay.
It's almost like breaking the ice.
Why do you think people encounter that? Not wanting to go beyond some perceived comfort level?
Personally, I think that I had an incorrect assumption that the people selling their house at the higher price might not want me to be the one to help them. I don't know.
Okay.
It was an insecurity when I was new, and I didn't really have it consciously, but I noticed that, you know, I was more nervous at the higher price points.
Okay, so what would your advice to new agents be?
Just, you have to do it one time, and then that completely disappears in a snap.
Because it's just wood and stucco and brick and.
Any house is a house, yeah.
A house is a
I know when I
house.
was very new, Lydia asked me to do an open house in her $1 million listing. And so I went and like bought a new dress for the open house, and I was like, if I get clients at $1 million, like I have to be different than I am. But
Did you color coordinate?
no.
Sorry.
I did get a thumbs up from her, which I thought was nice.
That's good. Okay. So the average commission per side, probably pretty much across the board, is 2.5. Not totally, but somewhat. Okay. The average commission income per transaction side would be line 2 times line 3. Your commission income per transaction is line 4 times line 5.
I think you need to put what your percent.
Basically 2.5.
Well, no, so then whatever your commission's
Oh, okay.
I think
Yes.
that's what works out.
Okay. And the number of transactions you need in a year, line 1 divided by line 6. So if you have an income goal of so much, and you divide that by the average commission income, that's going to tell you how many houses you need to sell that year, right?
What was line 5?
Line 5, your commission income per transaction. And I think Judy's right, if you use your split,
Why do you have it twice? Your, 5 and 6, why are they saying two things?
I think they're saying your commission income versus the average
Oh,
commission
Uh-huh.
I didn't see that.
which
Okay.
is pretty much like
What'd you say, Steph?
Oh,
one of them is
okay.
the average and one of them is yours. So if you yourself tend to get a higher average, then you would put that number instead of the average.
okay, number 7 is the number of transactions you need in a year, which is line 1 divided by line 6. And number 8, the average number of appointments needed to result in a closed transaction. This probably will vary agent to agent, but on an average, does anybody keep track? Can anybody say for yourself how many contacts you need to get an appointment? I would say that's probably pretty good. And it depends. It depends on 10.
10 to 1?
Well, the number, yeah, the number of contacts that you need to get an appointment. For new people, it might be higher because you're really putting out a lot of new information to your sphere of influence and finding people that, maybe at open houses and so on and so forth. So you may have a lot more contacts to get that one appointment, but that's okay. And it is gonna vary for everybody, depending, okay? The number of appointments you need in a year, which is 7 times 8. The number of working weeks per year. How many weeks vacation are you going to take this year? Do you have any big trips planned? Do you plan a trip every couple of months? This is the number of weeks that you're going to work this year or next year. And then the number of appointments you need each week would be line 9 divided by line 10. If you're only going to work maybe 50 weeks, or maybe you're going to work 45 weeks, or maybe you're only going to work 40 weeks in the year. And then 12 is the average number of prospecting contracts needed to result in one appointment. I think maybe they've got a misprint there. Does anybody else feel that way? I think it should say the average number of prospecting contacts needed to result in one appointment.
In some areas, they use, what's that form that we don't, that one properties using, the buyer's,
Okay, that buyer broker agreement?
yes.
Okay,
In
they
some-
do that a lot on the East Coast.
Yes, so maybe that's what they're referring to, I don't know. but
Okay,
Anyhow,
okay, whatever. And then number 13, the number of prospecting contacts, and they did change it here, contacts you need to make each week to generate the income you expect, which would be line 11 times line 12. You really have to break this down into numbers, and then you have to realize what you have to do. This is going to tell you what you need to do every day, how many people you need to see that day, how many calls, notes, and pop-bys you need to do, how many open houses you need to do, because you have to come into contact with so many people to get an appointment. And I think that coming into contact with people to get an appointment is probably going to be more than 10. It may be more like 100, 70 to 100, okay? You meet and see that many people and you get an appointment. And then depending on perhaps your skill and experience level, the number of appointments that you get, and the number of listing agreements that you get out of that, if you're prepared enough, it's going to be very high. Shouldn't lose too many listing appointments because of everything that you've got to bring to the table for the listing. Okay, does that make sense to everybody? Are we at 10:30? Is it time for a break? Oh, it's past? Let's take just a short break. Right around 11:30, maybe a little before. I know everybody has something to do. Thank you for setting this time aside, and I hope in your planners you'll set it aside for the next 4 weeks, because what we've been doing so far is just laying a foundation for where we're going. We're going to get into some really deep stuff here. It is a workshop. We're going to work on it and have some good results for everybody. Okay? Okay, the seller pathway, or the seller path to profitability. You and the seller both have the same goal when it comes to the sale of their property. The most money, the shortest time, with the least hassle. Your job is to demonstrate to the seller at every point of contact that you have the skills, resources, and tools to achieve the goal. The best agents have built systems that allow them to follow a predictable path with every seller, ensuring an exceptional experience for the seller that leads both to you to profitability. That leads both of you to profitability. I'm sorry. So I keep talking about systems. What am I talking about when I say you need a system or systems in place?
You need a plan.
A plan, yes.
Consistency.
Consistency. Okay. What
Goal.
else?
A goal in mind.
A goal in mind. You need, a system is something that you might do repetitively to bring results, right? Everybody's going to have perhaps a different system. One of our most favorite systems is the Buffini system, but there's other systems too. I know that one of our up-and-coming strong agents right now is on the other side of the building making phone calls. He's got a system going where he dedicates time every day to making phone calls. That's a system. If you have a geographic farm area and you're consistently working that area with newsletters and door knocking and so on and so forth, that's a system. There's a lot of different systems. You find one that you feel comfortable with that works for you. Having no system means basically you're unemployed and you're just on the hope list. Okay? Your hoping business comes your way, but unless you have a system in place, it probably isn't going to. So we'll be working on that too. But it's important to realize that everybody needs a system. In this program that we're working on, we're going to cover the master level knowledge. We'll cover the master level knowledge and skills you need to get and stay on the seller path to profitability, working on those systems, okay? The first thing is prep work, pre-qualification, pre-listing, showtime, the listing presentation, market the listing and service the seller, and then closing and beyond. Probably the most important thing you can do is the prep work that goes into the listing presentation and meeting that seller for the first time and talking to them and finding out what they need. Okay? Very, very important. Pre-qualification, start the process by gathering the information you need to tailor your presentation to the seller's needs. You're already going to have some things in place. We've got some of those things here. Remember, we've got a marketing book. I just made 25 new copies yesterday, and I've included in that some tips on staging that everybody can do. We have a really nice marketing book that you can give your sellers to help them through the process. But the other things that we have, we've got Business Builder, we've got Golden Ruler, we've got all of these things at our fingertips. Those are systems. We've got tools too, physical tools like our binding machine. We've got copy machines. There isn't much that we can't do right here from this office, okay? We just have to get it in place. The pre-listing packet, deliver information that preps your sellers for the meeting and demonstrates your professionalism. We're going to be going through all of these in a very in-depth level. It's just giving us a preview of what's to come in this discussion right now. For showtime, the listing presentation, position your professionalism and share your marketing and pricing strategy with the sellers to win their listing. Market listings and service the seller. Get the house sale ready, launch your marketing, and communicate with your sellers. There's probably not a more important job that you would have than to communicate with your sellers on a consistent and frequent level. The biggest complaint from all sellers anywhere is that they choose an agent to represent them in the sale of their home. That agent puts a sign, a lockbox, and in the MLS, and then they don't see them again until it's time to pick up a commission check or maybe present an offer, or they let the offer, the listing expire because they haven't serviced that listing and they're embarrassed. Communication is the most important thing, and we'll be talking about how to communicate, when, and what you're going to communicate, okay?
Marsha?
Uh-huh.
Along with the marketing the listing, I went to go show this listing yesterday. It was listed for 2%, and it had just had a price reduction. Well, looking at the history, it actually had a $20,000 price reduction over a period of time.
Mhm.
Wow.
20,000. If they had listed it for 2.5% or 3%, either one, would they have had to take a $20,000 price reduction?
Well, don't you think if they had listed it at the right price, it wouldn't matter what the commission rate was, even at 3%?
Right price, right commission, get it sold.
Yes.
I mean, seriously. I mean, by listing it for under a commission, none of us wanna show it,
Okay,
one, and,
there's something very important there, and it goes along with our code of ethics. So we aren't gonna spend a lot of time on that, but I'm just gonna put this out there right now. We have a duty, if we're working with the buyer, to show them the property that meets their goals and what they need, first and foremost. That's our duty.
They will want to ask to see it.
Yes, they will. So we have a duty to show it. If we don't show something, that's not a good thing. So I don't want to put that thought in everybody's head that they,
No, I was making the correlation between marketing your listing. Are you
Mhm.
marketing the listing to your best ability?
yes,
If you are convincing the seller to undercut the commission, when, I'm not saying us, I'm
Mhm.
saying the
market in general,
the market in general,
Mhm. Yeah,
it's going to, not present a best light
yes,
on your listing.
right. And we're going to be exploring that as we get deeper into this. And those are some very important things to talk about, Joy, and we will. Okay? Okay, closing and beyond, contract to close. Proactively steer the transaction to a successful closing through inspections, appraisals, and negotiations. How important is it to be able to negotiate? How often do you negotiate?
Constantly.
All the time, right? Okay. Okay, a client for life. Build on your success to stay in relationship with your seller for referrals and future business. And that's the ultimate goal. Okay, why listings matter, best practices for achievement. Why are some learning experiences more productive than others? Can anybody answer that? Why are some listing experiences more productive?
Well, you have sellers that are, wanting to achieve that goal of, wanting to sell. They're proactive in their list price, they're proactive in getting their house ready, market ready, they're go ready.
Mhm.
But then there's some sellers that are, stuck on a high price. They're stuck on, the market says, I've done my Zillow comps, quote
Okay.
unquote. The house is not show ready, it's either dirty or cluttered or whatever, and they're like, do I
Okay.
really have to do whatever?
Joy, let's bring that into what we're doing right now, because our book is taking us off in a different direction, just for,
Did I not?
no,
go
you
off
did,
the tangent?
you did fine. You did fine, it's just the book is taking us in a different direction, just for a minute. because it's talking about actually our learning experience.
That's the only thing we can control anyway.
Our learning experience? Okay, so
Some will
let's
be
bring
more
it down to this
productive
group,
if we
this
apply
group
them.
right now.
I guess it depends on what we apply, and what
Okay.
we learn.
Okay, it does,
Mm-hmm.
it does.
Some things I might be uncomfortable
Okay.
applying, other things,
Have you ever been to a class, and you probably have, where you didn't get anything out of it, there just was no meat to it, or because there was distractions that kept you from being able to focus yourself on what the class was about? Okay, all right, all of those things can factor in. What it's saying here is a clear understanding of the best practices that support achievement will empower everyone in this program to make the most of the next 4 weeks. So the first one is show up, be on time and come prepared. Most important, we don't often get to have a class like this where we don't have to pay for it, except with a couple of hours of time twice a week, total of 4 hours a week. We're going to spend for 4 weeks. So that's not a lot of time, but we don't have to pay for that. A lot of times you pick a nice class that you want to go to, and you've got to travel first of all, and then you've got to pay for it. And going to classes, we don't have a lot of classes available to us around here for the most part. But I remember years ago, I used to travel all over to go to classes, and they would be $600 to $800 or more. And you'd go for a couple of days, and you'd have to, pay for hotels and all kinds of things. So we're lucky to be able to have a class here. So please come, mark your planners, block that time in your planners for the next 4 weeks to be here, because what you have to share, all of you have to share with this class, is going to be important too, okay? Other people learn from other people. It's not just what's in this book or what I will say, but look what we've learned already by sharing this morning. It's very important. So please come, block your time, be present, listen attentively, and participate fully. I think in both of those categories, we do a good job here. You're all good students, okay? Does that ring a bell, Kathy? Kathy's a retired teacher. Okay.
we're one of those classes.
Oh, no. Don't get the wrong.
Okay, contribute.
On task.
Uh, Oh, be on task?
That's teacher phrase.
Okay. Contribute, share ideas, ask questions, give your perspective. None of us is as smart as all of us. It's what we were talking about in here yesterday. 1 + 1 has the power of 11. When you get a group of people together, there's so much that's happening on a dynamic level for each of us. We're sharing information. The synergy that's created is so important. And just the exchange of knowledge and experience makes all of us grow in every way. Be a team player. Respect the contributions of others. I don't think we have a problem there either. Focus on the task at hand. Keep cell phone and laptops off unless using them to build your business. So we've talked about that already, and I thank you for your participation in that. Keep an open mind. Sometimes the magic happens outside your comfort zone. Accept new ideas and concepts and explore them fully. I think if you come to a class like this with an open mind, don't put those roadblocks up that say, this isn't my style, this isn't my cup of tea, I just can't see myself doing that. But if you really open your mind up to the possibility and the potential, it will work for you, okay? Among the best things about being an independent real estate sales associate is the freedom to run your business your own way. Through your day-to-day decisions and client interactions, you are the architect of your success. That's kind of fun, really, isn't it? To know that you can create your own style of business and be successful in the way that you want to handle your own business. Century 21 and C21 University was created to take advantage of key insights from top performers. We have carefully studied and assembled this information in order to share their expertise with you. So that's my office. I've got those new marketing books.
One thing that they had suggested is, putting in a copy of the listing agreement.
Mhm.
And so that way,
You just want one or you want?
No, I had about 30 of them. I think they're on the bottom, maybe.
obviously it's not filled out, but, so that way they already have the agreement in hand, so they can
Mhm.
pre-read it if they so chose to.
Yeah.
That's enough.
Yes, would you? This is actually a marketing proposal for a buyer, but this is going to show you some of the things you could put in your pre-listing thing. And I would say you don't want to give all of your goodies away until you get the listing sometimes, but you want to have something that you can give them.
You want them to have comps,
Mm-hmm.
show them what's sold in the area, how
Mhm.
many days on the market,
Mhm.
who got full price, how many, give them,
Right.
yeah, an insight into their neighborhood
Okay.
and like homes, how long
Mhm.
it took to sell and what kind of pricing.
Mm-hmm. Okay, you're asking the question, why is a warm call better than a cold call?
Because you already know in what direction to go in, what a warm call.
Yes?
You
You've
know
probably
them.
established some rapport,
Mm-hmm.
okay? These two steps on the seller path to profitability allow you to build rapport with the seller before you have even walked through the door. You get to know them through their answers to their questions and their pre-qualification, and they get to know you through the information you share in your pre-listing packet. And I believe what they're going to recommend is a little different than what we've taught before. But it probably makes more sense in today's world. We've always taught the two-step process of going out and doing a reconnaissance mission, go to that listing, meet the people, see the house, and ask them some pertinent questions, then come back and do your market analysis and go back and present that market analysis. Now they're saying do that by phone. You can accomplish a lot of that on the phone, okay? The difference between a warm call and a cold call also is that if that seller is a referral or a previous client, there's already a built-in sense of trust, right? Okay, and that's a much warmer situation than meeting with a total stranger that you know nothing about. Nothing wrong with that. You just have to build up then to that stage of making it a warm call. So if you're asking them what's more important to you, the time that it takes to sell your property, the amount of money that you get for your property, or the convenience of not having to do it yourself and having somebody work through the process with that protection in mind for them. And you get the answer from the seller, what is that telling you?
How to proceed.
Yes? But it's also telling you something very important. Price point, yes.
That they are interested in living here?
Well, it is, but if in asking that, it's going to tell you maybe a few things, but one of the things it's going to tell you is when you get that range, that price range, it's going to tell you where you need to be in that range. Because if they say, don't care how long it takes, we need to get the price, they're probably going to want to list that property at the high end, and you have to be prepared to have that discussion with them, right? If they say, I have to get this house sold because my new job someplace starts in 2 weeks, and I have to know that this is going to be an escrow and we're working toward a closing. It's really important for me that time, then you know that probably you're going to price it at the lower end of that range that you have and have a quicker sale in most cases. All of this depends on market conditions and so on and so forth, but generally speaking, okay? If they say, I don't have a time deadline to move, and I'd like to get the best price, but really it's the convenience. I've sold a house before. I don't want to go through that again. I want you to take it and do a good job for me. I'm putting all of my trust in you. Just get it sold. Then that tells you too, maybe how they like to operate, what they're expecting from you, and maybe a little more flexibility in where you're going to price it in that range.
In that class we went to, instead of saying price, it was always market status.
Placement.
So you don't really wanna be in
Placement.
the top, you don't wanna be in the bottom, somewhere in the mid-range, so that your house moves instead of sits. I thought that was a great idea.
Good. And what did they call it?
Placement.
Oh, placement. Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
It's really hard to use that word in that video that I made. It's hard to use if you're used to saying price.
You're
Yeah.
not used to it.
Yes. Okay. We'll try to do that. We'll try to talk about the placement. Because that's really true. If you've got a range, where are you going to place it in that range that would be most advantageous for that seller and meet their expectations? Okay. Why pre-qualify? Knowledge is power. Learn the particulars of each seller's individual situation before you even walk through their door to tailor your listing presentation to fit their needs and wants. And that's part of what that's about too. If you know something about that seller, maybe even if you know what their way of making a living is, isn't that going to tell you something about how you're going to work with those people? Probably. Are you not going to work with an engineer or a scientist or an attorney differently than you would work with somebody that maybe has a different kind of job?
School teachers and engineers, right?
Right. And what about those people, Mitz? How are you going to
Technical, they wanna read everything, right?
read everything, know all about it, make a good decision? Okay. I'm sure we're going to be getting into some of the psychology later on in here too. Time is money. Not all listing opportunities are created equally. Your pre-qual helps you determine which leads are the most valid and how to prioritize your time. Can you imagine a phone conversation with somebody that says, I've had my house listed 5 times in the last 5 years. I like to try the market out, just want to see if it'll sell. There must be somebody out there that really wants a house like mine that has all of these memories and all of this emotional stuff attached to it, right?
And can you spend, a lot of time on my house, a lot of money, do an open house every single weekend?
Yeah.
And I wanna list it, at, let's just say a top number. Can you be my listing agent? And you're like, what?
Okay, but once they tell us all of those things,
Uh-huh.
then we have our homework cut out for us because we have to know how to handle those people and use our facts and figures and information to bring them to a point of reality so that we can sell their house and maybe help them understand where they've gone wrong over those last 5 years. Or maybe they're just very lonely and they never want to sell that house, but they just like real estate people because we're so sweet and charming, right?
There's more fact in that than there is.
I have an example.
I have old friends from back in the 80s, and they have a house. 5 years ago, the wife said, I am tired of my 2-story house, and I want to find a single level, and this is what I want. And so we went out looking. And but anything she found, her husband was never willing to come and look. And so after a year of this, I really thought about it, and I thought, okay, she said that their mortgage payment is going to be paid off soon, and I have a feeling that's what he's waiting for. Sure enough, so I kind of put it on the back burner, but I stayed in touch with her, and we didn't go out looking anymore. I didn't say, hey, let's go look at this. So anyway, they did give me 2 referrals in these years, which was good. And now he finally came out of the house and went and saw the first house. And I think he wants to buy it, but he's one of those that has to read everything. And he's a techie guy. He wants to know the answers to everything first. So we're still having to move very methodically. The whole family is waiting for his answer, you know? It's like
And you are patience personified.
But you know,
Laura.
my husband's been saying, you have been overly patient with these people. I'm like, no, because it'll happen. If I don't stay patient, they're gonna go with somebody else. And they have given me 2 referrals, so, you know, as hard as it is sometimes, and I wanna just walk away, you know, I think it's gonna happen. So,
Okay. No one likes surprises. A few minutes on the telephone may uncover details that would otherwise have caught you off guard and disrupted the flow of your listing presentation. Anybody have an example? Somebody was in my office yesterday, I can't remember who. If you're here, raise your hand. That a couple had actually divorced years ago, but the man was still on title. They did their own divorce, man was still on title. Lady wanted to sell, and now they're going to have to face the music to this whole situation because the husband doesn't want to sell. And if they do sell, this is a community property state, he's on title, guess what? So having that knowledge ahead of time, you maybe can prepare a little bit differently than you might prepare otherwise, not knowing that information. Because is that going to be a difficult situation? Probably, most likely. Okay.
I have an example. My last listing that I had just sold, I had run the comps before I walked into the house. I knew it was an outdated house, but what I didn't know is that it reeked of cigarette smoke, which greatly affected everything about it because it was so bad. And so everybody walking into the house, you could immediately smell it. And even though he primed and painted it, there was still that lingering in the carpet and everything. And so it's always best, obviously, I mean, it's one thing to run the comps beforehand, but it's another thing to actually physically walk into the property and to physically see it and to see the conditions of the
Right.
property before you start talking numbers. Because once you divulge numbers, it's already in their head, and then to try to backtrack is.
You're gonna give them a range, not like the exact.
You know what, right, no, I'm just kind of giving an example.
that goes to the lowest range.
Yeah, I don't.
Plus or minus of what your home includes.
Yeah, so,
Okay.
I mean, that's just something that you can't physically see,
Right.
you know?
Yes.
He didn't tell me about the cigarette smoke,
Yeah.
so, you know.
And it wasn't a problem for him.
Right.
Okay, no one cares how much you know until they know how much you care. By taking the time to dialogue with the seller before the appointment, you can build rapport and position yourself as a professional who cares. How do you show how you care?
Just listen to them,
Listen,
yeah. Be there
ask
for 'em.
questions so that they get to do the
Answer their
talking,
phone calls.
take notes.
Acknowledge to them what's important, what they've told you.
Yes, yes. All of those things are important to somebody. And what's another way? If you're in their presence,
Look at them.
eye contact, look at them. Yeah. Okay. Why provide a pre-list packet? Demonstrate credibility and service. Your sellers want to see evidence that you are a professional with the knowledge, tools, and Century 21 power to sell their property. What if they've just called Century 21 because they've heard it advertised through the years and they see the signs out, so on and so forth. Part of that job is done for you because of the power of Century 21. But if you aren't prepared and diligent in your course of action, you can destroy all of that has gone before you if you come in unprepared, right? Time is always money. Your appointments can be more focused and productive if the seller prospects have covered some of the content already. So if you have that pre-listing packet and you can either hand deliver it, you can hire a courier service to take it over, maybe you can email it to them in a package that they can look at. Mandy?
She said at the thing, she said a lot of times, she said she was mailing out pre-listing packages and they began to be kind of expensive. So rather than to deliver it, rather than to have it delivered, she would just throw the boxes in the back of her truck like they were already boxed in FedEx or postal boxes. And she would say, hey, I was gonna put this in the mail, but I'm in the neighborhood, so I just thought I'd drop it by and hand it to you. And she said, she would just say, you know, take some time to look it over and I'll call you back and we'll talk about it later. Plus, she got an extra touch to the client. And she said when she was handing out mailing all her packages, it got to be quite expensive. So she tried this manner and it worked out actually better for her.
Okay. You might have competition within 70, while 72% of sellers only meet with one agent. You never know when that is the case. Your packet speaks for you and you aren't even there, keeping you at the top of their mind. And question, how would you rate the impact of your current prep work? So be very honest with yourself. 1, I don't do any prep work. I walk into a listing presentation cold. Number 5, my pre-qualification uncovers all the details I need, and my pre-listing packet could win listings by itself. Rate yourself, be honest with yourself from 1 to 5. 1, you don't do anything, and 5, you've got it nailed. Where are you? Where do you assess yourself?
Marcia?
Yes, John?
I just want to say something. And I just asked Nova to put out an email. Anybody that's here and not going out and using this in the listing presentation is missing the boat. John, you've been around a long time. This is a nice piece. It's just absolutely first class, and if you just personalize it a little bit, you got plenty to talk to them about. And for those that think that we make all this money and don't do anything, all I gotta do is spend a couple minutes in the book. I mean, this is absolutely, I'm blown away. And my picture's right in the front of this. Marcia, this is amazing.
Oh, thank you, John.
Anybody that's not using this when it's provided, man, you could go out and go head-to-head with the best lister in town.
Thank you for putting this
Do you guys feel that way about this, or am I just?
Absolutely right, yes.
Marcia, I
Yes,
would-
John. Uh-huh.
You're trying to personalize this.
I like how it explains the condition, and that's how we look.
Would it be, is it very easy if you used a picture of the home that you're actually going to use?
Absolutely.
Is that something we can do?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
It would be so easy to do.
All right.
And I think it would be nice to have a bio page for each agent. And we can actually put this on, we can put it in SkySlope so everybody can get to it.
Our office docs and stuff.
Yes, and then you can personalize that first page with,
That's awesome.
and
And
put
that
your
calendar in the
photograph
back
wherever
so we
you
can
want
use
to.
it next year.
You
Mhm.
can spend a half
Yes.
hour personalizing these.
Yes.
And use your personalized deal and just over and over. And I wish I would have had some.
good. Thank you.
You're coming up on the road.
Are we, okay. All right. So we got through the first page and you asked the question of yourself, where am I, a 1 to a 5? We're going to go back at the end of this class and we're going to reassess where you are at the end. And I think we'll see a huge difference for everybody. See you